And welcome back to MTOP. We are a nonprofit organization, and we've been doing a series of videos on land use issues. And as I promised, we are going to be now actually interviewing a few people on another subject matter. And this is about Mount Prospect Park and the idea of taking yet another green space and concreting it. But I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'm just going to introduce you to the two people who are part of the Friends of Mount Prospect Park organization. I'll let them introduce themselves, and then we're just going to go right into the conversation. Okay, so who would like to go first?
Thank you so much, Alicia. I'm Haley Gorenberg, and I'm co-chair of the newly formed Friends of Mount Prospect Park.
And I'm Ben Lau, also co-chair of Friends of Mount Prospect Park. Thank you very much for having us today.
Okay, great. Well, I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm glad that we're able to do this for the community. So let's just talk about, what is this proposal? Like, how did it happen? You know, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, as it's been described by the people who were pushing it on us, the proposal for Mount Prospect Park, our neighborhood park green space, is to make a 40,000 square foot custom poured concrete skate arena. And it's complete with security lighting, and they're going to build spectator seating, they say, and that this is going to be put in the park, and that it was kept under wraps until it was announced at the end of January as a done deal.
And where is Mount Prospect Park?
So Mount Prospect Park it's not Prospect Park, the big one. This is the little sibling of that park. Mount Prospect Park is a small neighborhood park between the Brooklyn Museum and the main branch of the Brooklyn Library. So it's a small park that is a great sanctuary and a beautiful green space that's more oriented towards the community and the neighborhood around it than its big brother Prospect Park. And so we love having this little green space in our community.
Well, I just want to tell you, just personally, I used to be a kindergarten teacher, and I have a story about Mount Prospect Park. And Mount Prospect Park literally sits right next to the entrance of the Book and Botanic Gardens on Eastern Parkway. So a lot of people don't really know about it because they kind of think it's a part of Prospect, the garden. They kind of think it's a part of the garden because it's so green. It's very green over in that neighborhood. And I remember I had got a school bus, got the little kindergartners to come out, was going to the garden, and the garden was closed. It was a Monday, and I didn't know that. And there I was sitting with 30 little kindergartners, nowhere to go, but we went to Mount Prospect Park. And we used to always go there. The cool kids would always go there because you couldn't really eat inside of the garden. So we would always go to the park, sit down and eat, let the children run. And so I always felt like that park was more like a children's park, especially because the other entrance is right where the children's library entrance is. So a lot of parents will come out of the public school library, the children's entrance, and just walk right up the steps, and boom, you're back into the park. So your child is now allowed to run and scream and holler where they had to be quiet, inside the library. So I was a little disturbed when I heard that the city council person said it was an underutilized park. What do you think about that statement?
If one more person in supposed leadership says that it's underutilized and that they want to, quote, revitalize it, unquote, by pouring a concrete skate arena on it, hold me back. That's what we keep hearing. We're going to revitalize it by pouring concrete on green space. And like you're saying, Alicia, you walk into the park, and even in winter, there are kids doing pickup soccer games, playing Frisbee, teenagers playing Frisbee. people who walk there themselves, people who love to take their dogs out for a walk. It's got the ramp coming up that you can use for stroller access to get to the playground there. You can use it for disability access to roll on up and easily get to green space locally that people love. And then the other entrance is right smack into the children's library entrance at the Central Library. But we're all out there. I've lived in the area for 30 years. And when there had to be work done in my building, I would take my kids out to Mount Prospect Park, and we would just sit out there and eat our lunch or dinner in the park, the green space, every day. Flexible green space, super well loved by the entire community.
So I just wanted to I heard rumors, so just check me if I'm wrong, but I heard that this started with a participatory budget initiative that actually didn't come from this district. Can you explain that to me a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I apologize for the little noise behind me. But yeah, this started in District 39. District 39 said they wanted a skateboard garden. They put $300,000 towards that instead of other initiatives in the community. And that was in 2021. Then there was silence.
We lost
Time passed. Yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, that was in 2021. Time passed. And suddenly this year in 2024, it's been moved out of that district. That community's funds aren't going to something for them when, it's not going to a skate park for them or for, fixing a school or for anything else. Instead, that money got moved to District 35, where we were not asked whether we wanted to sacrifice green space for this. So it's been it's been all kept under wraps. It's been pretty sketchy, frankly, all the secrecy. And there's been no community engagement from Crystal Hudson's office or from anyone else around this.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of Crystal Hudson, did she support this initiative?
Apparently to the hilt, and to the tune of maybe almost $2 million, we just found out.
She gave, was it participatory budgeting money that she gave?
No.
Oh, was it just
she said she allocated $1.8 million. We just learned that.
And did she, at any time during this process, did she come to the community and ask if they wanted to have this arena?
We have not found anybody, and we've been collecting, signatures in the park and talking to our neighbors who use the park, and we haven't found anybody who said that was the case. And in fact, what she told us yesterday is that now that the decision has been made to pour concrete in the park, now we can begin community engagement. So we can, have a look at plans which don't exist yet, but we can look at plans, and that should be the community engagement. When the issue is the site, the issue is pouring concrete and paving a park. The issue is not the design of a skate arena. It's pouring concrete over green space.
And let's just, when they say a skate arena, you said that it started with District 39 saying that they wanted a skate garden, but arena sounds very different than a garden. So what is this arena? What would it look like?
So, Eric Adams has said this would be a host for major professional events. This would be a regional draw. This could be the biggest skateboard arena on the East Coast. It's so big, it's hard to imagine, but the entire project, 40,000 square feet, if you imagine a middle floor of the Empire State Building, it's 1.5 times the size of that. So it's really massive in scale. They haven't told us the exact details yet, but we know that if they put it in the middle of the park, it would take up about 40% of the center of this small neighborhood.
Well, let me just share my screen, and so that you can see what I found out about this. Can everyone see my screen? Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. So we are doing the Mount Prospect Park, saying green spaces. And if you look at this area right here, this is an area in Brooklyn, is the Owl's Head Park skate park. This is about 14 square feet. right? This is 14. So the 40 would be about 3 times or 300% more than this space. So when you're looking at this space, you're like, wow, this is a big space. Now you think about this 3 more times, like 2 more times. So 3 times this space, 300% more. That's a lot of space inside of a park.
Right.
Why do they feel like they need to have 40 square feet? Why do they feel like they need to have an arena that would draw hundreds of people? I mean, just looking at this space, I mean, you can see the little person down there, so you can kind of gauge the square footage of 14 or 14, 40. Why do you think that they feel like an arena is so important?
Well, it sure doesn't sound like a neighborhood resource. I mean, like Ben is saying, it's considered a regional size arena by the skateboarding experts at double what you just showed us. And this is almost triple what the size of what you just showed us. So apparently 30,000, once you hit 30,000 square feet, it is a whole regional feature. It's certainly not a local feature. And
that's not our definition. That's the definition of the group from California that's been pushing for this, you know, hand in hand with Assemblymember Hudson and Eric Adams. That's their definition.
So this is actually a group that doesn't even exist inside of New York City.
This is this is an outside group that's been pushing for this. Exactly.
Okay, so, and it's underneath what you wanted to call the private-public partnerships.
That's
right. Is that what this is?
That is how it is being presented, and the public part seems to be many millions of dollars of taxpayer money, and the private part is being set forth right now, although clearly it looks like there are a lot of private interests in this, that the private part is the wonderfulness of their design expertise, and that they would offer up their design expertise, which they value at, you know, at least $100,000 of expertise from California. And then maybe $12 million of public money to build it in the park.
And, you know, one of the concerns that a lot of community organizations have is about these public-private partnerships and how we're allowing private interests to come into our community and take over our public assets, right? This is a public asset. It's an asset for the community. You know, green space is essential. Why do you think that this particular park needs to be saved from that kind of entity?
Yeah, I mean, it is such a it is rarer and rarer every year to have just beautiful multi-use green space that's just open for the community to use, to relax, you know, to enjoy. And every year as this becomes rarer and rarer, they're more and more precious to us, and it's so vital that we protect it. I think it's clear, at a minimum, if we're being generous, it's clear that these outside groups don't understand what this park is. Maybe they were misled about that. Let's assume that, you know, in good faith, that they don't understand how wonderful this park is. But, you know, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, how much green space are we even going to have left if nobody stands up and fights for it?
And is there any benefits to it staying a green space?
I can't imagine. I mean, how many different ways can we learn that green space is important, right? You know, it's important for our physical health. It's important for like mental well-being. We're just coming off, you know, being massively hit as the center of the COVID pandemic, and being able to be outside and have some place to enjoy and calm is huge. And then we're being hit by storms, and we're seeing floods and floodwater runoff and overwhelming our sewage system. And what happens when you have all this hardscaping and paving, which Brooklyn suffers from, the city suffers from, you could say that, you know, the world suffers from. And here we've got an attempt to go exactly backward by pouring concrete on green space. So any number of ways that we've learned that it's vital that we keep our green spaces, not only because we really love them as communities, but also because of what we know from our health in every, in every way. We know that pouring more concrete makes Brooklyn even worse in terms of heat islands, in addition to the flooding and the stormwater and the contamination, the sewage overflow. So, any old way you look at it, or any way of analysis shows us that this is absolutely wrongheaded.
Yeah, I've talked to hundreds of people now about this. And what I've discovered is that there are hundreds of different personal stories as to why the green space here is so important. I'm a dad, and my younger daughter was named in that park. That's where we brought her to name her, and we've had birthday parties there, and we've had, just so many important little milestones and big ones. And I know that there are thousands and thousands of people who have the same stories and the same memories, and for whom this is a precious place, and fundamentally changing the nature of it and covering so much of it in concrete is brutal. It's brutal to the people for whom this park is so precious.
Well, I know one of the issues that we've been concerned about here in New York, and especially in our community, because we do have a lot of green spaces that need to be protected, is, the environmental consequences, as you mentioned already. But I remember one particular issue that I've been told about is the sound. Like these concrete, you have these rollerblades going up, you'll have stadium seating. So you'll have a massive amount of people coming to see tournaments and all kinds of stuff. And right behind this space is the Book and Botanic Gardens. So, because they're right next to each other. Actually, that whole area, if just talking about historically, that whole area at one point was given to the city of Brooklyn from the state and told to be used in perpetuity for the community for green space. And so they carved out Mount Park, and they carved out the garden, and then they carved out Prospect Park and put Flatbush in between those. So what have you been told about the sound, just the sound itself? Has anybody talked about the environmental consequences, not only just with the flooding, obviously, because the more concrete that you pour down on the earth, the less the earth can actually absorb the rain and runoffs. But what about the sound?
Yeah. So, Crystal Hudson, our council member, says that now that the site has been picked in her mind to pour the concrete, now we can begin kickoff community engagement. So no, there hasn't been any community engagement or discussion about these impacts to date. And noise, sound it's an environmental issue, it's a public health issue. Noise can be disruptive, has big impact on your health. So to look at it and analyze it as a real environmental and public health issue is also a very important part of knowing about what the impact really is on this community of putting an arena, a concrete arena, in this space.
Yeah,
Right.
it's fun. The people pushing for this park have always been so surprised when this notion of sound comes up, but every actual skateboarder I've talked to about this, many of whom oppose this, by the way, because of the size and because of skateboarders like green space too. Every skateboarder I've talked to, the very first thing they say is, that's going to be so loud. That's going to be so much noise. So anyone who's actually used skateboard arenas and skateboard facilities, that is their number one concern when it comes to this space.
And that's important, right? Because we know that Hudson is talking about, maintenance. She claims this is a maintenance. They're trying to upgrade. It's an upgrade. Do you see an arena of this size as an upgrade to the park, or is this a major transformation of this park and how it's going to be used in the community?
We think it's a degradation. In no way is it an upgrade. And that's why, to keep being told, oh, don't worry, we're revitalizing your park is so outrageous. No, it is not an upgrade. It is taking green space and pouring concrete on it. And that's why the community has immediately upon learning it been, signing the petition, reacting with shock, asking what can we do to stop this, because it's so upsetting and in no way an upgrade to pour concrete on the park. And, there's plenty of paving as we went over. Brooklyn is very paved, unfortunately. And if a skate facility is to be built, there's plenty of paved space, right adjacent to the park or other parts of Brooklyn that don't have a concentration of skate parks. Any number of places you can put in to put a facility that's paved. You don't have to pave green space to have more skating.
Well, I'm going to share again that proposal because I know that you had sent me this map, and I wanted the viewers to see this map. This is a map, and all of those red dots are where there are skate parks, or facilities for skate. And that blue area right there, you can see my cursor, is where they're planning on putting this particular arena. And as you can see, there's a lot of, especially in this area, there's a lot of skate parks. And there's nothing down below, down in Canarsie, down, Sheepshead Bay. There's nothing in those areas. So to put an arena of that size, when you have quite a number of skate facilities already in the neighborhood, doesn't seem to make sense. The only thing that does seem to make sense is that because this is a community that has a lot of other facilities, cultural facilities, that they want to now be in the smack in the middle of those cultural facilities. We have the skating rink, we have the library, we have the zoo, the Prospect Park Zoo, we have Prospect Park itself, we have, the Booker Museum, and so we have a lot of these cultural facilities. And to me, it sounds like they just want to take this and monopolize on it because it is the center of cultural activities and put the skating rink so they can make money. That's what it seems like to me. It's like a money making. Yeah. What is your position on that?
On the map, looking at it, it looks like someone is salivating for this space along the lines of exactly what you're saying. And it does not look like it's about giving more recreational facilities to underserved parts of Brooklyn, because you've got that swath of skate facility desert that you just showed where apparently nothing is available when you do a Google search. Exactly. And this multi-borough effort in the Bronx and Brooklyn with these 4 facilities, apparently budgeted at $24 million, and half of that to be plunked down in our neighborhood park. You got 2 in the Bronx, 2 identified in Brooklyn, right next to each other, Crown Heights and Prospect Heights, neighbor communities. And they're putting the Brooklyn facilities they've announced in those 2 next door neighborhoods to supposedly serve us better. Sure doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it's serving Brooklyn better. And then we're told that it's because there's not enough skating resource in the area. So that looks transparently not true when you search out the skate parks or the skate facilities.
So we're going to move to what can people do now that we know that this facility is here. What are the actions, that people can do? So I'm going to keep that screen up so people can write if they need to. But what are you suggesting that people do?
Yeah, number one is, sign the petition. You can also stay involved. If you sign the petition, we'll be able to engage you and into all of the activities we're planning and get out there and really spread this message. And beyond that, like it says, contact Councilwoman Hudson. She could stop this plan immediately. If she said, having actually listened to my constituents, I found out they don't want me to pave green space, She could just come out and say that, and this whole thing would be done. She sometimes pretends otherwise, but that is the truth. So calling her office and saying, shut this down, we don't want it, is huge. So those two things, sign that petition and call Councilmember Hudson and let her know that green space is precious to this community.
Well, can you give me your contact information just in case somebody might want to call you or email you or reach out to you? Do you guys have a contact information?
Yeah, we've tried to make it really straightforward. Just email us at Friends of Mount Prospect Park.
And
at-
your
at
email,
Gmail. Friends of Mount Prospect Park.
Mount Prospect Park.
At gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Okay, so that's your contact. Great.
Yep.
So if somebody wanted to ask you questions and find out what you were doing, so definitely sign that petition. I want to thank you for coming and sharing this information. We will definitely be doing a few more videos, hopefully, on this issue. But I really suggest that people get involved. Our green spaces are really precious for the people and for our children, and we need to stop the corporate greed and the public-private partnerships where they're just taking our public spaces and just using them for profit. And, you know, especially with something of the magnitude of this, when we know basically this is not for the communities, it's for outsiders, for people who want to come from outside and come into the neighborhood and destroy, you know, a public space that is used. So please stay involved and go to our channel and watch our other videos and like us and follow us as well. So I just want to thank again my guests for showing up, and I want to thank you for listening, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.
Thank you so much, Alicia.
Yes, and thank you. Thank you guys for showing up. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Alicia.
Okay.